Most people think the enemy is out there, the boss who insults you, the friend who betrays you, the stranger who cuts you off in traffic. But the truth is harsher. The greatest enemy lives within. It's your lack of control when anger takes over. It's your craving for comfort that keeps you weak. It's your endless search for approval that leaves you empty. The world cannot enslave you unless you hand it the chains. And yet, most people do exactly that day after day. But what if you could break free? What if true freedom didn't come from changing the world, but from mastering yourself? The Stoics taught that the first and most important battle is not fought against armies or rivals, but against the turbulence inside your own mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the mind is sovereign, that nothing outside can truly harm you unless you allow it. You may not choose the insults thrown at you, but you choose whether to be wounded by them. You cannot control if fortune gives or takes away, but you can decide how to respond. Think about anger. How often do we lose hours, even days, replaying an argument in our heads, wishing we had said something sharper, stronger, more cutting? And yet, what power did that person really have? They spoke words, and you turned those words into torment by carrying them inside. Epictetus warned, if someone provokes you, remember they can only touch your body or reputation, not your true self, unless you grant them access. This is the heart of self-mastery, the ability to stand guard at the gates of your own mind. You can't always control your first impulse, but you can choose whether to feed it or let it pass. The Stoics didn't promise that life would be free from struggle, but they showed that the struggle could be won within. And once you begin to master this inner battlefield, you will notice something remarkable. The world feels less threatening because you are no longer at its mercy. Would you rather be a person who rules nations but is ruled by anger, or a person who rules nothing but themselves and is truly free? Desire, left unchecked, is a tyrant. It whispers that one more taste, one more purchase, one more distraction will finally satisfy you. But the Stoics knew the truth. The more you feed desire, the hungrier it becomes. Seneca wrote that wealth, pleasure, and status often enslave us far more than chains ever could. A man chasing indulgence is never at rest, because he is always in need of the next thing. Think about how easily modern life proves this. You pick up your phone for a moment of relief, and suddenly an hour has vanished. You chase likes, views, or fleeting pleasures, but they dissolve as quickly as they arrive. You end up emptier than before, not fuller. This is why the Stoics practiced temperance. They believed discipline over desire wasn't a punishment, but a form of liberation. To desire less is to be less vulnerable. To control your appetite is to control yourself. The path is simple, though not easy. Pause before reaching for the thing you crave. Ask yourself, will this strengthen me or weaken me? A sweet taste may comfort for a minute, but what does it do to your long-term strength? A night lost in distraction may numb your mind, but what does it cost you in clarity? The Stoics remind us that every desire is a test. The more you resist being pulled by every impulse, the more unshakable you become. Mastering desire is not about denying life's joys, it's about refusing to be owned by them. For what kind of freedom is it if every craving can command you? One of the simplest yet most powerful Stoic lessons is the distinction between what is in your control and what is not. Epictetus placed this at the very heart of philosophy. He said that some things are up to us, our judgments, our choices, our actions, and everything else belongs to fortune. Confusion arises when we forget this line and waste energy trying to bend what cannot be bent. Imagine losing your job. You cannot always control the economy, the decisions of managers, or the shifting winds of business. What you can control is your response: bitterness, despair, and blame on one side, or resilience, adaptation, and calm on the other. The Stoic does not deny the hardship, but refuses to hand over their peace to forces outside themselves. This practice is not abstract. Each day you can draw a simple line. What belongs to me? What does not? Your effort belongs to you, the result does not. Your character belongs to you, other people's opinions do not. Your preparation belongs to you, luck does not. How much suffering could be avoided if we truly lived by this? When you place energy only into what is yours to shape, you find strength where others collapse. It is like building a fortress on solid ground instead of shifting sand. The storm still comes, but you remain standing. Epictetus advised his students, "When you encounter loss, remind yourself, this was not mine to keep. When you face challenge, remind yourself, but my response is mine to choose." In that choice lies freedom. For the world cannot defeat a person who has drawn the line clearly and lives within it. Comfort weakens us when it becomes our default state. The Stoics believed that if you never train in hardship, life will crush you when hardship comes. Seneca advised his students to occasionally live as if they had nothing, to wear rough clothing, eat coarse food, and sleep without luxury, asking themselves, "Is this what I feared?" By practicing poverty, hunger, or cold, they discovered that the things people dread are rarely as unbearable as imagination makes them. Modern life shields us from discomfort. We have soft beds, warm meals, endless entertainment. Yet this comfort can become a trap. The moment something small goes wrong, a delayed train, a dead battery, a missed meal, we react with anger or despair. If you have never tested yourself in discomfort, how will you stand strong when true adversity comes? The Stoics understood that discipline must be trained, like a muscle, and the way to strengthen it is through chosen hardship. Consider small exercises. Wake up earlier than you want, step into a cold shower, skip a meal, walk when you could drive. These are not punishments. They are reminders that you are tougher than you think. They build resilience quietly, so when life takes something away without asking, you do not collapse. True mastery comes not from avoiding struggle, but from using it. The soldier who is only trained on sunny days falters in the storm. But the one who has faced hunger, cold, and fatigue in practice walks into battle with calm. The same is true for the soul. If you voluntarily walk through small discomforts, you discover that fortune has less power over you than you once believed. Few things reveal a person's character more quickly than the way they use their words. The Stoics warned against speaking too much, too harshly, or without thought. Seneca observed that silence often shows more strength than speech. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to waste words on idle chatter or gossip, but to let his speech be guided by truth and necessity. Words, once spoken, cannot be called back. They either build trust or destroy it, heal or wound. Think of how many conflicts begin not with actions, but with careless words. An argument escalates because someone wanted the last word. A friendship breaks because something said in anger pierced deeper than intended. Mastery of the tongue is mastery of the self. It is easy to let passion push words forward. It is harder and wiser to let reason stand guard at the gate. The Stoic approach is simple. Speak less, listen more, and when you do speak, let your words serve a purpose. Before you respond in anger, ask, will these words solve the problem, or will they feed it? Before you share something about another person, ask, is this truth and is it necessary? There is strength in restraint. To remain calm while others shout is not weakness, but power. The man who can govern his tongue is greater than the man who can govern a city, because cities can be lost and won again, but trust, once destroyed by words, rarely returns. The Stoics remind us that wisdom often sounds like silence, and when words do come, they should be as deliberate and steady as the hand of a skilled craftsman. Time is the one resource no one can bargain for, no matter how powerful or wealthy they become. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, argued that life is not truly short, but that we waste much of it. People guard their money with locks and alarms, yet they let anyone steal their time with trivial requests, meaningless distractions, or endless entertainment. What could be more valuable than the very substance of your existence? Modern life offers countless ways to waste this gift. Hours vanish scrolling through screens, consumed by things forgotten as quickly as they appeared. Days are spent chasing tasks that do not matter in the end. The Stoic asks, if you knew death stood at your door tomorrow, how would you choose to spend today? That urgency is not morbid, it is clarifying. It strips away illusions and forces you to face what truly matters. To treat time as precious is to live deliberately. It means saying no to what does not serve your purpose. It means waking each morning with the awareness that this day is yours to use well or to lose forever. Once it passes, it will never return. This is why Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to waste another moment arguing about how to live a good life, but to simply live it. Mastery of the self includes mastery of your hours. Ask yourself at the end of each day, did I live or did I merely exist? Did I invest my time in building strength, wisdom, and connection, or did I scatter it on nothing? A life can be long or short, but its true measure is whether its hours were owned by you or squandered unnoticed. Death was not a subject the Stoics avoided. They faced it directly, not with despair, but with clarity. Memento mori, remember that you must die, was not meant to darken the mind, but to sharpen it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that both emperor and servant alike are swallowed by time. Death is the great equalizer, stripping away titles, wealth, and illusions, leaving only the truth of how we lived. To keep death in mind is to learn how to live. When you remember that your days are limited, petty arguments lose their weight. The pursuit of empty pleasures feels hollow. Gratitude becomes more natural because every sunrise is understood as a gift, not a guarantee. Seneca advised his students to live each day as if it were a complete life in itself, finished and whole, so that if tomorrow never came, nothing essential would be left undone. Think about how often we delay what truly matters. We plan to tell someone we love them, but not today. We plan to start the work that gives us meaning, but after this distraction or that season passes, we live as if life is endless, yet every moment we postpone is a moment we can never reclaim. Death, far from being an enemy, is the reminder that time is urgent. The Stoic does not fear death because it is natural, unavoidable, and outside our control. But they use its presence as a guide, a compass pointing to what matters most. To remember death is to be awake to life. When you live with the awareness that the end could come at any time, you begin to ask yourself with sincerity, am I living in a way worth dying today? The desire for praise is a subtle chain. It seems harmless to want recognition, yet the Stoics warned that the pursuit of approval enslaves the soul. Marcus Aurelius, who held the most powerful throne in the world, reminded himself often that the applause of the crowd is nothing more than the clapping of hands that will soon be dust. To live for praise is to hand over your freedom to the opinions of strangers. The same is true of blame. Harsh words, criticism, or rejection can unsettle us only if we believe they define us. But the Stoics taught that neither praise nor blame has power over virtue. What matters is not whether people approve of your choices, but whether your choices align with reason and integrity. A person who is swayed by approval today and crushed by blame tomorrow is like a ship without an anchor, drifting wherever the waves push it. In our time, this trap is amplified by endless screens and endless opinions. People spend their days performing for likes and comments, chasing approval from faces they will never meet. Yet no amount of praise fills the emptiness, and no amount of criticism needs to wound the person grounded in principle. The Stoic stands firm by asking only one question: was my action guided by virtue? If yes, then praise is unnecessary and blame is irrelevant. If no, then the correction lies not in what others think, but in returning to the path of reason. To be free is to live without being ruled by the shifting winds of opinion. Praise fades, blame fades, but the strength of character endures. Pain, to the Stoic, is not an enemy, but a raw material. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and that what stands in the way becomes the way. Hardship, loss, disappointment, all of these, when faced with courage, are transformed into the very tools of strength. It is not the suffering itself that shapes you, but your response to it. Consider the fire. If you throw wood into it, the fire grows stronger. So too with the soul. When life throws difficulty upon you, you can choose to let it consume you or to let it feed your inner flame. Seneca, who endured exile and misfortune, argued that adversity introduces a person to themselves, revealing strengths that comfort and ease keep hidden. Without resistance, there can be no resilience. In daily life, this might look like turning rejection into a lesson in patience, illness into an opportunity for courage, or failure into a school for wisdom. Each obstacle becomes a training ground, each wound a chance to cultivate endurance. What others call misfortune, the Stoic calls preparation. This alchemy of turning pain into strength is not easy. It requires the discipline to pause, to reflect, to ask, how can this serve me rather than break me? But once learned, it is one of the greatest powers a human being can hold. For if every hardship becomes fuel, then nothing can truly defeat you. Life may bruise the body, but the spirit, tested and tempered, becomes unshakable. The obstacle is not the end of your path, it is the path itself. Impulse is the easy path. It tells you to strike when angry, to indulge when tempted, to retreat when afraid. But the Stoics believed that a life ruled by impulse is no life at all. It is slavery to every fleeting feeling. True freedom, they taught, comes only when action is guided by principle. A principle is a steady compass. It does not sway when others mock you or when circumstances shift. Justice remains justice whether it is popular or scorned. Courage remains courage whether it is rewarded or punished. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to act like a citizen of Rome, only when others watched, but to live in harmony with nature and reason at all times, as if his soul itself were the only witness. Think of the difference between the person who lives by principle and the one who lives by impulse. The impulsive man may feel powerful for a moment, but he is tossed about by every emotion, never truly in control. The principled man may face hardship, but he stands on solid ground. His choices are not dictated by moods or approval, but by the higher law of reason. Living by principle demands clarity. You must ask yourself, what do I stand for? What virtues do I refuse to betray? Once these are known, decisions become simpler. You no longer waste energy debating each choice, because your path is already marked. It is not the easier road, but it is the only one that leads to mastery. For to act by principle rather than impulse is to live with dignity, even in the face of loss. And dignity, once earned, cannot be taken away. Stillness is not the absence of noise, but the presence of clarity. In a world that is constantly buzzing with distractions, the ability to sit in silence and reflect becomes a rare and powerful tool. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often withdrew into stillness, seeking to quiet the noise of the world in order to hear the whispers of reason. It was in this solitude that he found his strongest counsel, not from others, but from within. In today's world, stillness is often seen as a luxury, something reserved for those with time or wealth. But in reality, it is a necessity for anyone who wishes to live deliberately. Without it, we are at the mercy of the world's demands, constantly reacting, never reflecting. The mind becomes cluttered with tasks, opinions, and anxieties, and in that chaos, it is easy to lose sight of what truly matters. The Stoic approach to stillness is not simply to retreat, but to use that retreat to sharpen one's focus. It is not an escape, but an essential practice that refines the soul. By spending time in quiet reflection, whether through journaling, meditation, or even just a walk in solitude, you can clear the mental fog and recalibrate your actions. This practice allows you to respond, rather than react, to life. In the quiet moments, you begin to hear the true voice of your character, separate from the distractions of external influence. You realize that your strength does not come from what the world says, but from the peace you find within. Stillness is not weakness. It is a foundation of power, for only in silence can you truly hear yourself think and find the wisdom to live a life guided by reason, not emotion. Entitlement is a prison. It locks you into a cycle of expectation and disappointment where the world owes you something, respect, success, fairness, and when it does not deliver, you are left frustrated and bitter. The Stoics, however, saw the danger in this mindset. They knew that expecting anything from the world, except what you are willing to earn or create for yourself, leads only to suffering. Think about how much mental energy is consumed by feeling that life should be different, that people should treat you better, that success should come faster. This constant desire for what we think we deserve often clouds our judgment and creates unnecessary anxiety. Instead of living with gratitude for what we have, we focus on what we lack or what others have wronged us. Epictetus, a former slave who knew firsthand the cruelty of the world, taught that true freedom comes not from the world giving you what you want, but from the acceptance of what you can control, your response. The world does not owe you anything, and once you understand this, a sense of peace replaces frustration. The Stoics did not believe in passivity or resignation, but in active engagement with life on life's terms. You must meet the world where it is, not where you wish it would be. This means taking responsibility for your own actions and choices without blaming external factors. By relinquishing the idea that the world owes you something, you remove the burden of resentment. You stop waiting for others to change or for circumstances to be just right. Instead, you focus on how you can adapt, how you can create meaning in the midst of challenges, and how you can live in accordance with virtue regardless of external conditions. This is where true freedom lies, not in receiving what you expect, but in having the strength to give yourself what you need: peace, resilience, and purpose. Self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. It is the ability to be unaffected by the whims of fortune, to remain calm in the face of chaos, and to act in accordance with reason no matter the circumstances. The Stoics understood that all external circumstances, wealth, fame, power, even life itself, are temporary. But the state of your soul, your inner character, is something that no one can take from you unless you allow it. The Stoic life is not one of detachment from the world, but of control over how you engage with it. It is a life rooted in virtue, not external outcomes. It is about learning to cultivate your own peace, your own strength, and your own wisdom, regardless of what is happening around you. Once you have mastered yourself, you realize that you are the only true master of your life. Imagine living in a world where your inner peace is never disturbed by other people's opinions, by the success or failure of your career, or by the twists and turns of fate. What would that kind of freedom feel like? It would mean that nothing could make you lose your way because you have anchored yourself in the unshakable foundation of your own values. No matter what happens in the world, you are steadfast, moving toward your purpose with clarity and calm. This is the freedom the Stoics sought. They didn't aim to control the world because they knew that was impossible. What they aimed to control was their own response to it. Through discipline, reflection, and virtue, they became the masters of their own destiny. You too can cultivate this freedom by practicing self-mastery. Every choice you make, every action you take, is a step towards owning your own life. It is the highest form of freedom, and it is available to anyone who is willing to put in the work. Mastery over oneself is not a destination, it is a continuous journey. It requires constant effort, reflection, and commitment to the principles that guide you. The Stoics knew that life would test their resolve again and again, and that true mastery was not achieved in a moment of triumph, but through a lifetime of practice. It is in the small, everyday choices, whether to remain calm in the face of anger, to resist the urge for excess, to act with integrity even when no one is watching, that mastery is earned. Every day offers new opportunities for growth. The Stoic does not expect to be perfect, nor do they see failure as defeat. Rather, they understand that mistakes are a necessary part of the process. When you stumble, it is not the end of the journey, but a chance to learn and adjust. The Stoic approach is not to measure success by external achievements, but by the degree to which you remain true to your inner virtues. Are you acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation? That is the only measure that matters. This journey of self-mastery requires patience. It requires the willingness to face discomfort, to make difficult choices, and to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when the road seems too hard, or when life presents obstacles that seem insurmountable. But the Stoics' power lies in their refusal to be swayed by these external forces. They understand that they cannot control the world, but they can control how they respond to it. The true reward of self-mastery is peace. It is the peace that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are always aligned with your principles. It is the peace that comes from living a life of integrity, free from the need for approval or the fear of failure. And as you walk this path, you begin to realize that this peace is not a distant dream. It is something you can create in each moment by staying true to the virtues that guide you. The lessons of the Stoics are not just ancient wisdom, they are timeless truths that have the power to shape our lives today. From mastering our emotions to controlling our desires, from embracing hardship as an opportunity for growth to living with unwavering integrity, the Stoic path is a guide to living with purpose, clarity, and strength. We have seen that true freedom does not come from external circumstances, but from mastering ourselves. It is not wealth, power, or success that brings peace. It is the ability to remain grounded, calm, and focused no matter what life throws our way. The Stoics remind us that we are not victims of fate, but creators of our own character. Through discipline, reflection, and virtue, we can cultivate a life that is truly free. The challenge now lies in taking these lessons and making them our own. Each day presents us with opportunities to practice self-mastery, to live with purpose, and to choose virtue over impulse. The path is not always easy, but it is always worth it. For in the end, the most powerful force in the world is not what we can control outside of ourselves, but what we can control within. Master yourself, and you will find that nothing can master you. You will become the architect of your own destiny, building a life that reflects the wisdom, strength, and peace that come from living in alignment with your highest values. And in doing so, you will not only find true freedom, you will become a living example of what it means to be truly free. If these Stoic lessons resonated with you and inspired you to take control of your own path, subscribe and join us as we continue to explore the timeless wisdom that can transform your life. The journey to mastery starts with a single step. Take it today